Palladino.
Here.
Ms. Hamadel.
Yes.
Ms. Pakakua.
Yes.
Ms. McVeigh will be marked absent. Ms. Chambers.
Here.
Ms. Ernest.
Here.
6:59 p.m.
I do. I got that in a second.
Mine says 7.
Mine says 7. All right, recognition was read when the meeting was opened, so if we'd all please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda, but the first thing I need is a motion to amend the agenda item D12,
D2.
sorry, transfer reports, to remove the July transfer attachment.
Motion. Second.
Is this just an all in
Yeah.
favor?
All in favor of the amended
Yes.
agenda? Any opposition? Motion passes.
Now I need a motion to approve the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Kim.
Second.
Karen.
Any questions? All in favor of this motion? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes.
Moving on, could I please have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? So that would be item 6, A and B.
Motion. Second.
Any questions?
Discussion on B1, executive session number 1 from June 19th. It's missing mention,
Anything
I
that
know.
would be, okay.
missing mention of a discussion of our cash flow status that we discussed.
So, Mr. Kubricki, what you're talking about is an executive session item. So for executive session minutes, that would be a confidential matter. So if you would like to discuss changes to the executive session minutes, you could discuss them in an we could have an executive session to discuss them, to make those changes.
Okay, so if the executive session minutes are missing something we discussed in executive session, the proper procedure is to,
You would discuss what you think is missing because you go into executive session for confidential reasons. So if it was part of that, then that would preserve the confidentiality of that discussion.
okay, so the fact that we didn't do it in executive session tonight, and it appears that an item we discussed is missing, how then to proceed?
So we can always make a motion to go back into executive session. Or we could table those minutes and we could table those minutes for either later in the evening or for the next meeting.
Well, I know something is missing, so whatever the board wants to do, they can vote and vote yes on, here. I just know something is missing.
Just make a motion.
Why don't we table those minutes? I'll amend the minutes at the next meeting to reflect discussion. You and I will discuss that to make sure I understand. And I'll present item B1, executive session 1, June 19, 2019, amended at the next board meeting.
Appreciate it, thank you, sir.
So I need a motion now to table the items 1 and 2?
No, just one,
Just one?
just one.
Is that how I need to do this,
You
Amy?
already have the motion.
Just one.
Okay, so I need the motion.
Unless you want to have someone amend the motion.
You'll make me switch. So what are we doing now?
No, No, do a motion to table exec B1.
All right, can I have a motion to table B1?
Move table B1.
Okay, and second,
Sure.
Kim?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? B1 is tabled.
All right, now, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes, so it would be A, 1 and 2, B, 2, 3, and 4. We had a motion by Pat, and a second by Christie.
All right, Mr. Barchetto.
Yes on A, staying on B 2 and 3, yes on B 4.
Mr. Williams is absent. Mr. Kubricki.
Yes.
Ms. Palladino.
Yes.
Ms. Hannah.
Yes on 1 and B 1 through 4, but I have to abstain on number 2, A2.
Okay, Ms. Papakua.
I am yes, with the exception of B2 and 3. I need to abstain, I was absent.
Okay. Ms. McVeigh is absent. Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Ernst.
Yes, except I was absent for A2, so I will abstain, and B4, I will abstain.
Just making sure this all.
It does.
Yeah, but this motion carries. The abstentions don't undo the
We don't do
quorum.
anything.
All right.
All right, moving on to item number 7, the report of the superintendent. I will hand this over to Dr. Cooley.
Sure, I'm on. All right, thank you. Welcome everyone tonight. I have some things on my list and then I am going to turn it over to Mr. Brown and he's going to give a facilities update. So first and foremost, our opening day with our staff is September the 3rd at 7:30 in the morning. We're having bagels and some breakfast. The official kickoff is 8:30. If any of the board would like to come, I and the other administrators will be presenting in the morning. So if you'd like to come, you're more than welcome to attend any of our opening day festivities. We have things running the entire day and then the following day as well, so I can send those schedules out. But if you want to attend, it's September the 3rd at 7:30 is breakfast and then 8:30 is when we begin. I wanted to clarify some questions that have come up. There was an article recently in one of our local papers, and it was regarding a study to be done for a consolidation of Little Lake Harbor with the 7 through 12 district. So it is a little misleading. At this point, the only thing that we're getting from a local agency is a quote to see how much it would cost to do that type of study. So once that quote is obtained, then it would be presented to both the Pinelands and Little Lake Harbor Board of Education. If both boards are in agreement that they want to move forward, then at that time a study would take place. But at this point, there's no study. They're just merely getting together a quote for that. I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. I wanted to thank Miss Patty Rowland. She came as a Pinelands representative to our volunteer meeting. A couple months ago, I held a parent meeting with parents to hear different concerns. And one of the things that came out of that, and it was a very large group, was that they wanted to help and volunteer in the schools. Things with like bathroom duty, cafeteria duty, and other things that we needed to kind of compensate for some areas in need. And Ms. Frasket and I put together a list. We sent out emails. We had a lot of interest. However, Ms. Rowland was the only one that came from the Pinelands District, and she's getting processed and she's going to start volunteering. So I just wanted to give her a shout out for, coming and moving forward with that, and we're happy to have her helping out in the schools. On your agenda tonight, there's item D12. It is an organization that's coming in and doing some assemblies for both Pinelands and Little Lake Harbor school districts. We're splitting the cost of that among the two. And just to clarify, I know Mr. Kubricki had mentioned about doing something for the parents. As a part of what they're doing for us, there are 2 parent workshops at night as well.
My only concern was for the parents to come out, because I saw his videos and they're very good.
Yes,
And
yes.
the program looks very good, something we need, but if parents don't come out, that
Right.
So-
Well, as it gets closer, we'll start publicizing that more, and Mr. Henderson's very good at enticing parents to come to workshops. He gets prizes and things like that. He sings too, I think. I want to formally thank John Balone and Bruce and Brian, of course, but for all of their hard work and the countless hours they've been putting in more recently than in the past because of the construction and coming into the end of it and being here at 4 o'clock in the morning and, you know, spending all night worrying about everything and just really going above and beyond these last couple weeks to make sure that everything is the way it should be, and it's not going unnoticed. So thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to discuss, we did pull from the agenda tonight a stipend for Mr. Balloon for Red Cross Emergency Plan. I hadn't been here obviously in the past for this, and I understand that this has been something that has been approved in the past, the actual plan, and Mr. Balloon would be overseeing this. And of course, unfortunately, if there was some type of traumatic event and we had to use the junior high for a shelter, he would be the one facilitating that, he would be the one there all the time. And I had put it on there, and I just wanted to have a discussion about that and see if there were any questions or if we could discuss that tonight. So, any thoughts on that? I know it did come up. Karen, did you want to?
Yeah, I think the way that, so the Pinelands, I don't know if it's always or for years, has been a shelter. I think the way we had it structured in the past was it was based on number of days that the school was a shelter,
Okay.
would be a shelter. And then that's how the compensation went. So
Okay.
instead of just a flat dollar amount per
Flat
year, it was,
stipend.
if there was an emergency
was a per
situation
diem rate.
and we used the shelter, then, you know, you could have something that's a day or two, or you could have, and more unfortunately, an event that's over a period of time. So I think the compensation was like per day
Okay.
kind of thing. That's why I couldn't
So-
remember exactly, but I
Well, if
think
you
it
don't
was
mind, then
around
what I can do is let me look back, now that I know that there's questions, I'll look back at how historically it's been done, and I'll get some information from other school districts and see how they do it, and I'll send that to the board so we can have some more information.
We know that it was done at Sandy.
Right,
Yeah.
yes, okay,
And
I
I
will,
think that probably it's on our drive because that contract was created with our former VA.
Yes.
And he was the one receiving the per diem amount, so
Okay.
we had to approve that, so it has to be on our
okay,
drive.
I'll look for that, then I'll get that together.
The other thing also that I want to ask, and it doesn't so much have to do with an emergency shelter, but when the junior high is used for, it's like a stopover for the bike racers, that we've always done that in the past, whose responsibility is that at that time? I mean, there has to be somebody here,
Yeah,
because it becomes a shelter for these people, you know, who are doing this
so
bike
I
thing.
haven't been here when that's happened, but I can add that to the information that I put together.
Okay,
So I wasn't even aware of that, so
Yeah.
I will put that in the information as well.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah, because that could be an additional situation where
Sure.
Where we would
something
have to
should be
have somebody,
compensated for.
okay.
somebody had to oversee it.
Right, all right, I will put that together. Just write that down, please. All right, the next thing, the mental health legislation and our plan. Recently, and I know Kim gets these a lot too, school boards put out some legislative updates, and I just want to commend the board because one of the things that the governor is enforcing now is mental health curriculum that has to be taught in health classes, and of course, we're going to incorporate that, but I also want to commend the board because we are now going to be approving in September our part-time mental health person that will be here for our students, staff, and parents. So I think it really goes hand in hand with the issues that we're facing, with the crisis that we're facing as a nation, and assisting with not only our students, but our staff and the parents as well. So that person will be on our September agenda for approval. We did interviews. We had about 7 people, I think, apply for the position, all very qualified. So that'll be coming in September. I just wanted to throw this out there because it was discussed in Little Egg, and it can be nothing, but I didn't know if the board was entertaining or you're comfortable with the current time that we have executive and our regular meeting. I know that Karen comes far, and I think that that's the 7 o'clock is the earliest that you can, or the 6 o'clock for executive is the earliest you can be here. I didn't know if we wanted to throw out an earlier time. Sometimes our meetings go late since we only have the one a month. Is that something we want to consider, or is everyone comfortable with the current time starts?
I don't know how Karen's schedule will work. I think it would work for Christy, but she doesn't work so far away. One of the things that I considered, because of the input that I've had from other board members, is not quite enough time for discussion.
Right.
I know we go through the Q&A, we ask questions, we get the answers. It doesn't always give us that opportunity to throw something out there that might be important. And so one of the things I had thought of, and again, I'm not gonna be here, so I don't have to follow through on this, but
You'll be here till
is maybe a 5:30 executive session.
Right.
In most cases, I think we could, handle our legal personnel, et cetera, within a half an hour's time period. There are times it would have to be extended, but then perhaps begin an actual work session at 6 o'clock.
And then if we needed a second executive,
We could always
into
do it
one.
at the end, make sure that anything that has to be voted on that evening gets done in the first executive. And it was just a thought process that I had when I was thinking, what could I have done better? Or what could I have suggested, that we change in order to take care of some of those issues? And as I said, I'm not gonna be here to follow through, so it's really kind of up to the board as to what you people would wanna do. So,
What are your thoughts on that, 5:30
Yeah,
executive,
so we
6
used
o'clock?
to be 5 o'clock. I mean, so quite honestly, I think I do come the farthest, but it's once a month. I mean, I made the commitment to be here. I can adjust my schedule. I mean, I can't be here every day at that
right,
time,
well,
but,
sure, but like you said, it's once a month.
Yeah.
Better than our twice a month.
yeah.
We wanna
So
try
I think
that, 5:30
is
and
fine.
6? 5:30 executive, 6
Work
o'clock
session
board
at 6.
meeting.
Who's the other one, would be Betty Ann.
But she's pretty local.
She's pretty, yeah.
She gets out.
Yeah, 6 I think would be a
But the
regular
other thing
meeting.
is, I thought the parents.
Session, right. Yeah, 6 o'clock would be the regular meeting, but
Right.
we'd go right into our work
Yes,
session.
of course, right.
At that point,
Yes.
for whatever period of time we need.
I guess
I
I
always
would
thought
want,
that we did this for the parents as well, so
Yeah.
they could get home, feed kids and come. I thought that's where, I thought it was like, I always thought 7 was a little late, at 6:30, but I think
Right.
6 might be early.
so they could have dinner and then still
And then come.
be able
And
to
then-
participate.
Well, they wouldn't be missing the meeting part per se, they'd be missing the work session
Right.
portion if you would do
So
that first.
okay, so
So
the
you do
regular meeting
presentations.
voting
And then we
session
can
would
push
still
our
be at 7.
presentations back.
Right.
So they start a little bit later.
Because I know we ran into that with the referendum, remember people said we were starting too early.
Right.
And we can try it and see if there's, any feedback, and we can go from there.
Are we going to try it in September, or would we have to change the item 16 on the
Advertisement would have to
agenda?
be changed.
Sue, aren't you here
Or are we
till-
gonna wait till October?
Yes, I am.
Nice try though.
If you want to do it in September, we would just have to let Nick know so he can.
And re-advertise.
So, okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's fine with
You
me.
wanna take a quick straw poll? Is that
Yeah, and then if there's any discussion afterwards, you can always shoot me an email. So right now, we're thinking 5:30 and 6. Is everyone?
Yes.
Yes, good?
Good,
Okay,
all right.
all right.
Oh, AJ, I forgot, you have to kind of come from, is that good? Okay.
All right, the next thing I have is the non-tenure list. I just wanted to point out that I did send that to the board today to make you aware of how many new teachers we have, and we're very excited about that. They do have to be mentored, most of them. They have an additional observation each year, and on the chart, you can also see, I've explained this to the board before, when they're new, we pair them up with an administrator, one the first year, a second one for years 2 and 3, and then in their 4th year, they present to the administrative team all of their accomplishments over the past 4 years in the district, and it's really an exciting time for them. So look through the list and see all our new faces, and that's just for your information.
The mentorship paperwork is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving into the new school year, I just want to talk about how excited I am and we are as an administrative team. We have no negotiations going on, which is a good thing, so we don't have that stress right now. We're going to be in our newly renovated schools, and the students are very excited about that, as well as the staff, and we're really focusing on the positive. Not harping on all the negativity that has been associated in the past with certain things, and just moving forward in a positive light. And that's going to be the message that we send out to the staff when they come back on September the 3rd as well. So as I said, you're welcome to come to those meetings and be with the staff for that if you choose to. questions from the website. I didn't have anything on the Q&A. There were questions sent right to our district site somehow, and I feel that Mr. Brown, when he gives his update right now, is going to address those. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
All right, guys, we are very, very close. We are almost there. This is we're very close to turning these buildings back over to the community. To understand this, last week we had almost 5,000 man-hours on that job site across those two buildings. It is a tremendous amount of effort. These men and women are busting their tails, and we should all appreciate that. I want to give you a quick overview. This is a $53 million project in 3 phases of work. It's basically all new everything, all new roofs, exterior walls, doors, windows, mechanical systems, including cogen and energy efficiency improvements. You have much needed improvements to stormwater management systems. We improved some of the parking lots. And oh yeah, that stadium where we play our football games looks pretty awesome right now too. There is a detailed project board up here. If you want, these are the boards that they posted earlier this year. Brooks, our architect, updated them. These are the details of the project phases. And Bill, if you don't mind, thank you. You can scroll through those. These are the original boards that were posted up before. Guys, this is tremendous construction projects. The buildings looks awesome. Our staff, students, and community are pumped to use them again. And first and foremost, and I want to just piggyback on what Dr. M said, John Malone, Brian Moore, from everybody on this Board of Education, thank you. We owe you a debt of gratitude. You guys jumped into this project with both feet and have given an unbelievable amount of time, energy, and effort. This community is grateful. I also want to thank the countless number of professionals involved in getting this project across the finish line. Brooks Garrison and Garrison Architects, Edwards Engineering, Kevin McDonald, Mark and Glenn, the guys at Newport, Peter DeBlasey and the guys at Paul Auto Building, the entire Command construction team, which has been incredible, with the guys at Noresco, TTI, our guy Tim Pop, every tradesman, every woman, and every subcontractor, from everybody in the Pinelands community, thank you. We could not be more excited to get in and enjoy this space. But like I said, we got work to do. We're close, and it's going to be tight, because we're obviously getting close, but our professionals say it's going to be open. We met with them an hour ago. They reiterated that. So I want to go over just a few punch list items that are left and a couple of questions that came from the community. So what's left on the punch list? We got to get a TCO from the town so that we can open the buildings to the public. We get a full CO after the contractors finish out their punch list items. That TCO application is going to happen at the end of this week. We get a word from them in the beginning of next week. There's obvious stuff like the landscaping around the buildings is still getting worked on. There's going to be dangling cables and things like that got to get channeled and put up. We're going to uncover some other things that are come along the way. We had a pipe rupture in the home ec room that we're fixing right now. It ruptured recently. We had a relay switch on a generator failed when we went to go start it up, and it's got to be replaced. These are the kind of things where we're in the weeds on these. Our life safety systems are coming back online. The paving at the junior high and the high school is happening this week. Furniture and tech delivery is happening every day, right? So we appreciate your incredible patience up to this point. We're going to ask you to just hang on and be patient through this next week here. I got a couple of notes on the roof because I did get some questions about this, so I want to address these. There was questions about what we did to the roof. So I get the easiest way to answer this is we replaced the entire roof. The whole roof is new at the high school. The roof was installed to the specifications that the architect developed in the bid specs. So when some of the materials that were used on the new roof, they have some issues. There's bubbling in small areas in those issues. They got to get repaired. Those issues are covered by our warranty with Tremco. They manufacture these materials. It's not an installation issue, it's a materials issue. So we're going to apply something called Alpha Guard to a small area of the roof tomorrow, and that'll address this issue. This cost is covered by the warranty. If this application is delayed because we got some weather tomorrow, the application is going to get pushed to Teachers Convention Week, because we want to have as much, at least a week, something like that, to get as much time as we can to apply this and let it dissipate. All the bid spec, shop drawings, and MSDF sheets for the roof work are on the district's website. On environmental issues, so anytime you crack open a 40-year-old building like we did, we're going to run into some predictable and unforeseen environmental issues, and this one was no different. We had spec'd into this we have TTI, that's our environmental consultant on the project, and anytime we run into an environmental condition, we call TTI and they do all the testing. So We remediated asbestos from several areas of the building, some in the original scope, some unforeseen. When we do this, TTI conducts air sampling to ensure that these areas are safe after the remediation is complete so that everybody's good when they go back in. Mold's a common problem in schools. We remediated mold in some rooms over the summer. If we find mold in the room, we have a process to inspect and clean those rooms. When the work is done, TTI tests them to make sure they're safe. We are constantly conducting air sampling tests and as scheduled, and additional tests as needed to make sure this space is safe and ready for our staff and students when they return. I had a question on the financials. After the end of this month, it's going to take vendors several weeks to submit payment applications. I said there was 5,000 man hours on the job last week. There's over $4 million in capital projects, bill payments on the bill payment list this month. It's going to take us time to review and process those payments, so I think it's fair that we'll have those things updated in the October reports, and they'll probably get presented at the November meeting, so that's a timeline where we'll have a better idea on what the remaining things are that we can address and what our budget is to address them, like the elevator, things like that. Someone from the community asked about the roofing contract with Michael Kibithan Roofing. So the original contract value that the board awarded was $5.02 million. We have a payment to them tonight to settle that agreement. Assuming that payment is made, we will have paid $4.8 million. So the difference between the original contract value, $5.02 million, and the final contract value, $4.8 million, is about $287,000 in savings to the district. We've had several questions about the details of the settlement with Michael Kibithan Roofing. We can't comment on those details, but you should know, and we reiterated this last time. This contractor completed their portion of the project before final payment was issued, and Tremco issued a final 20-year warranty on the materials. So some fit and finish items for you. The major work is done. Like I said, there's still some work being performed as the contractors close out the projects. This will not impact students. Nobody's allowed on the roof. The mechanical systems are all new and running for the first time, so there's going to be comfort issues, adjustments, repairs. This is normal. We've hired Noresco, they're the commissioning agent. They do all the tests, they're independent testing and balancing of these systems to certify they're running properly. And then we have an internal system in place for our staff and employees to report issues if they have them, so we can send them to the appropriate department and get them addressed. So I want to lastly say, let's focus on the tremendous positive momentum ahead of us in 2019 and 2020. There will be things that don't work, and comments of that was better before we changed it, and this doesn't work properly. I beg you, don't be that person. Choose to contribute to this community in a positive way. It's not all a giant conspiracy theory. There are 350 plus Pinelands employees that work their tails off every day for your children and the families in our communities. I appreciate all their hard work. Thank you to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over
I just
to
had one
Dr.
more,
M
yes.
because
I forgot
she
something, I'm sorry. So the other thing I had for discussion with the board, I did send around the math plan for shared service. As you know, one of our goals is math this year. And as Ms. Hannadel said, it's very ambitious. There's action steps on there, you got to review it. The part that I was working on was the bottom part. I did review what we currently have budgeted for professional development altogether for the district, not just for math. And our current budget for professional development out of the general budget, 7 through 12, is 11.5. That included a guest speaker that we're not getting for opening day, so that total is what I'm working with. So what I'm proposing is, with the cost of professional development, if we bring in people that do PD, like the woman that we had the one day when you came, Kim,
Yes.
they can be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a day, which is a lot. And if we send people out for PD, I think the most cost-effective way to handle this would be to utilize some of the services from Little Lake. They have a full-time math coach already, and there are people there that are very competent in math instruction and math achievement, and instead of going out for outside consultants, just forming that relationship where we can use some of their services. And that's the plan that I had put together for you. So review this again if you have any questions right now. If not, ask me questions before next month, and we can put something together for the September agenda. So kind of look this over, ask questions, think about it, and let me know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So do you do, like a department PD as well, where you hold like some of the the head of the department pairs off new people with old people? It's just something I heard at school boards, and they do a
So-
lot, and they do it throughout the year, and they do it at lunch.
So they do like PLCs, all the departments, and that is part of it. So like they get together, they look at assessments, they talk about it. The department head is supposed to lead that. But
Okay.
as you said, someone that is maybe more seasoned might have some tips for some of the newer teachers and vice versa.
Right.
So yes, they do already work in professional learning communities, that already takes place.
Oh, great.
This is really gonna be above and beyond to do observations, to give feedback, coaching, that one-on-one. All right, so let me know, look that over and send me any questions, and then that is all I have, Ms. Ernst.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. M? I would kind of thank you very much, Nick, for your presentation. For all of you, we did have an opportunity before our executive session. From our executive session this evening to take a brief tour of the high school. And, you know, we didn't get to every part of the high school, obviously, but it is amazing, you know, from those of us who were here in 1979 when it first opened, to people who went to school here, there have been so many tremendous changes that they were trying to figure out, well, where did that office go? And wait, wasn't there a doorway here? There have just been amazing changes. You know, Brian, you know, Newport, I mean, what they have accomplished is amazing. And I think Nick's right. I think what we're gonna have to do, one of the things I remember today was that sitting in construction meetings, I guess it was about 2 months ago, they weren't even sure whether the 8 classrooms that were closed last year, that we were gonna be able to reopen. Because that was kind of like the Hail Mary wing of the school. And they are open. And they've worked hard, and sure, we're gonna have bumps. You know, balancing systems, et cetera, when they're all new is gonna be difficult, but I am tremendously excited about what is happening. So, my thank you to all of you. All right, moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which is our presentation. So, our energy manager, Trina? She's gonna use this, right?
You're next.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we skipped it. Yeah. So it's not she does hers, Gina's presenting the black facilities.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Fine.
As you can see, my name's Trina Riegelman, and I am the energy manager for the district. I want to just take, hopefully, 2 minutes. I started a job as an energy manager in the Little Lake Harbor School District almost 8 years ago. I took the job because I wanted to make a difference. I know that we have, and I also know that Pinelands has made that difference as well, and you're going to see why. What I try to do, or the biggest part of my job, is getting people to do this. Shut down everything every single day. That's where the money is. That's where you know, have the cost avoidance. And believe it or not, they're doing it. Pinelands is doing it. Did I have pushback in the beginning? Absolutely, but I always do. But that makes me tougher. So that was what they got. How I started is last summer, around this time, I met with, my job is to get to know the staff and to get them to buy in to this program. And I do that in many different ways. First thing I did last summer was meet with all of the administrators, because if you don't have them, it makes it very difficult. They support you, it makes it a lot easier. Next, I met with all the custodians and maintenance people, and again, I saw them throughout the year which made it even nicer. I've got relationships with all of them as well, because they help me. I can't be there every day to do my audits. I can do it once a week, maybe twice a week. But if they're there and they see these things on and they turn them off, that's the job. That's what my job is, to get them to help out. I met with the entire school staff last October, explained the program to them, showed them what we were going to do and what my goals were, and they pretty much were on board. Then we had a contest, and I had them throughout the year. It was to design a mascot. Here in Little Egg Harbor, we did that my first year, and a first grade class made the mascot that we still have to this day. We spent a whole week of learning about energy and why it's important to save it, and then this class did that. Well, we did it a little differently in the high school and the junior high. It was opened up to all students, and I had about 30 people hand something in to have it be the mascot. And the winner was Kayla Thornton, who happened to be a senior last year, and her person was this little guy. And I think he might be on the next slide. So what happens is, if the people turn off what they're supposed to turn off, they get an Eco Watts. If they don't, they get the toad. And that's just a reminder to them to make sure that they turn it off the following day. And it's working. They also, what I did with this school, with these schools, was to leave a little note. I don't really like doing that because that's wasted paper, but I used recycled paper, so it was okay. So I would just leave a note letting them know that something was left on and what that item was, so that when they came in the next day. And in a lot of cases, I have to tell you that by the next week, that item wasn't left on. So it works. So that was Eco Watts. Then in December, we had a thing, December and January, we had a thing for the staff. Name the mascot. And I had about 50 people respond to that. They also got prizes for this too, so that's really cool. 2 teachers, about 50 people gave me names. It was very difficult. We narrowed it down to 2, Eco Watts. And as you could see on that, it tells you what each one stands for. Educate, conserve, opt in, working all together to save. They like him. I think he's kind of cute myself. So that's what we did that. Then later in the year, we had, what I do is I always send out an email when we're having a long break, Christmas time, Easter time. And I usually try to, of course I want people to read these emails, so I put something in them that they have to read the whole thing. And if they do, they might win a Wawa gift card for $25. So there's a gain in that. Again, getting people to read the emails to learn what they have to do. And it works. Okay, let's see, where else are we? The contest for the spring break. Okay, next slide. So we're now going into 1920. We have a program coming into Pinelands, and I gotta tell you, you're really lucky. We've had it in this program for 4 years. We're going into our 5th year. And because it's been so successful, they are now opening it up to other schools. And as soon as they told me that, I said, Pinelands is getting it. Power Save for Schools is a curriculum-based program, and it can be done in the classroom, can be fit into their class, whatever class they have, or it can be done as an after-school program. And they learn what's important and why it's important and how they can make a difference. And I will tell you that in Little Egg, we have it from our preschool all the way to the 6th grade. And it works, and the kids get it. And my goal has always been before I was working at the high school as well, was to send the kids from here over there and have them continue on. And so now it can absolutely be done. I've already got teachers in the high school that are interested in doing the program, and I've got somebody that's on the ledge that, at the junior high, so I'm hoping that they will as well. That's one thing we're doing. We're also going to collect Crayola markers. And one thing I noticed walking around the school all last year was there are boxes of markers in almost every classroom in Pinelands. And I'm sure they're being used. But when they're not any good anymore and when they're dried up, Crayola will take them back. And they make them into fuel. Amazing. They pay to have them sent back. All we have to do is collect them. So I have 2 teachers, one in the high school, one in the junior high, that are willing to do that for us. They will have their kids go around and collect the Crayola, and they don't have to be Crayola. Any marker that is made, they will take back and they make them into fuel. And you can look on their website because they'll tell you all about it. In talking to the principal at the high school, he would like us to have a mascot costume. So we're working on that. We'll see what we can do with that. So hopefully we'll have that. We'll see. Right? Okay. The next program that we're starting is another really cool thing. And again, I have to tell you, we've been doing it in Little Egg this year. Is the Trex Plastic Bag Contest. More than plastic bags. So that will be in each school next year. What we do is collect those plastic bags and plastic wrappers that come around water bottles and anything in the bag form. When you go to the laundry and you get your stuff, the cleaners, that plastic, and we collect them. We take them to the Acme, and they send them to Trex. Costs us nothing to do this program. And if we are the school with the most poundage of plastic, they make a bench. In Little Egg, we had 3 schools doing it this year. One of the schools won a bench. It was Mitchell, but anyway. So we're going to do that. And we last year collected over 2,500 pounds of plastic that's staying out of the ocean and staying out of the bay. And this is why I love this program, because I get to bring these things to the school that down the road, I mean, I will tell you, we've had people dropping off plastic all summer because they just don't want to hold on to it. And I just had to get some this afternoon. It is phenomenal that, especially in an area like this, that we're close to the water, some people live on the water, to teach the children that this is important, that it's going to save lives. And I will tell you, because my class was involved in it greatly last year, they totally got it. We had a big write-up in the newspaper. A reporter came out and spoke to the kids. I was a little nervous. Did they really get it? Totally got it. Totally got it. So they're 2 of the big programs that we're going to have. Also, in Little Egg, when we first got started, we belong, and I believe Pinelands already does, belong to Sustainable Jersey. There's grants out there that we can get. It's not a really difficult process to do. We've gotten almost $10,000 in grants in Little Egg. So we're going to try that this year too. And it can be for almost anything. So we'll try and do that. And then later in the spring, we're going to have a Think Green contest. I just want the students to be thinking about what does that mean and what can we do with Thinking Green. So that's a big thing for the school district for next year. And of course, my audits that I do once a week. Okay, this is what I know you all are interested in. So in order to get this number of your cost avoidance, I have to input all of the bills. And I will tell you that close to 2,500 bills had to be put in. And the company that started this program in Little Egg, the Synergistic company, has a outdoor company that comes in and does a program. So I input the bills, and it comes back and it tells me how much has been saved, how much has been avoided being paid. We don't like to say cost savings because people then want to see the money. So from September of 18, when I started, till April, $47,221. I do have a sheet here, and you probably need to know too that because this program was so successful in Little Egg, we were able to bring it to Pinelands with no cost to you. Little Egg paid $65,000 a year for 5 or 6 years to have this program. So that's already right off the top. Pinelands didn't have to pay because it has been so successful here. We do have, if I can find them, sheets, and this is going to show you the same period at Little Egg. Now, what I want you to understand is Little Egg wasn't doing any kind of construction. Huge difference. First of all, I wasn't able to get into the high school. I wasn't able to turn the lights off. Huge thing. So I want you to know that the difference is, it's going to be different. Okay, so I'm going to hand these out. On the first side, it's basically just from, and it says from November to June. Again, for Little Egg. I started the end of October, so it was really November. And then on the back, oh, did it come out? Do you have stuff on the back of yours? Okay, good. That is per, utility, the electric and stuff. I want you to, and I will also tell you that Little Egg is over $1 million we did that in almost 7 years. So I want you to see that if you continue on with this program, what the possibilities are. And I see great possibilities. Do I know that you've gotten LED lights and you've gotten sensors? And yes, but you still have to turn them off. You still have to turn the lights off. You still have to turn the computers off. That's why this program is more of a behavioral program. Know that I do turn them off if they're not off. A lot of people think I don't. But I just truly believe that it's an important program, and I want Pinelands to make the difference that I think they can make. And I know it's a possibility. So, any questions?
How did you stay on the water and sewer?
How? That's just, well, you'd be surprised at how many sinks are left on.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
Running?
Well, dripping, but for every drip, yeah. And the water and sewer there is not, but again, it's, yeah. Because part of what I do is to go to the facilities manager and I let them know if I see sinks dripping or windows being left open, or I don't so much tell them about the computers and the smart boards and stuff, but I tell them about those things that if they don't know, they can't fix. And if they're not fixed, you're going to waste money. So I'm not just going and turning off computers and lights. I'm checking the entire building, and I'm talking to the custodians while I'm there, who see things and sometimes don't remember at the end of the night that they needed to put that information in someplace so that they can fix it. So,
Any other questions for Mr. White?
Just a quick question. Did you see 60 Minutes this Sunday?
I did not.
They had a great presentation about the plastic in the oceans. And as you run your plastic campaign, you might want to get access to that, because I think it would be a good learning tool for students to see that and made, I don't know if anybody saw 60 Minutes with the plastic.
Were they talking about the movie that was out?
No, they were talking
the
again
ocean?
about the plastics in the ocean and the extent, I was surprised the extent to which the plastic is in there, and it travels from, you know, the rivers, and it's such a major problem that I don't think people, unless you saw that, I didn't have an awareness of that. And I think it's a particularly good video program that if you showed it to students, it would impress them tremendously to get involved in this plastic. So if you have a chance to go on the 60-minute site,
I will
you
do
probably
that.
could check it this week. But it's,
I do have a movie, The Plastic Ocean, or I forget what it's called, that I think would be okay to see in the high school, junior high and the high school.
Is it the nonprofit that's collecting them?
No, it was just a 60-minute report on the state of the plastics and how that would seem to be a chemical benefit 50 years ago is turning into a really disaster, you know, in terms of what it's doing to things now. It's amazing. So that plastic initiative is right on, and I think that video just would push it.
I will take a look at it and bring it there. Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna go back now to John, Ryan, Bruce, I'm sorry. Gentlemen,
Is that what you did?
come on up and do your thing.
You go on that side.
Okay. You go first. Oh, I go first. Pretty much, Mr. Brown took the thunder out of the construction with the full highlights.
Yeah, he did.
But in the aspect, if you look at the time that we've been working on it, we had 4 major projects. The first one we finished up was the football field athletic project. We're pleased to say that we did an evaluation of the turf today, and it is set for game day.
We are gonna lay it out and line it next week, hopefully for our first scrimmage game at
That's awesome.
the 3rd. We're gonna try it. We gotta lay it out and line it. But he looked at the field, the grass is coming in nice. So it was good keeping everybody off a year. And he said if we can, you know, try to limit how many people get on the field.
So pretty much that was the main one in the beginning, so we saw the fruits of that right now. The second one that we finished up, which was the masonry project, we finally have all the walls finished. The last one we did was by the boiler room. Windows are done, shades are going up, every window has a percentage shade going in, so that's another one that's just about finishing up. Interior renovation wise, we're just right there. It's happy to see that things are moving out of the building now. The men are leaving, the tools are leaving, the supplies are leaving, the equipment is running, and the inspections are in the process of being wrapped up. So that's with the renovation. The last one is the site project. With the amount of site work that we did, we're up to final paving and striping of all the asphalt improvements for a bus lane, parking lot area. We did stormwater management work, and that is looking to be wrapped up probably by Tuesday, with construction fencing coming down on Wednesday. So that's a feat in itself of the amount of dirt removed, especially in the back parking lot area and the bus lane. So we're right at the cusp of finishing up.
John, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, the 8 classrooms everybody was worried about, thought was gonna hold us up, they happen to be the first ones done out of the whole project. We were done with 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and we're on the 1st floor of A and both A wings. Media center's done, just waiting for furniture, office is done, atriums or commons are done. We're moving right along. We should be done with the high school, with everything, the end of the week, beginning of next week, and we're moving into junior high. Junior high is about 75% complete.
Yeah, about that.
Because we took the initiative of doing A and B wings, E and D wings, before the contracts got full bore. So we did the classrooms, we sealed them up, they're all done. So all we have to do left there is C wing, the cafeteria, and a little bit of A that's by the cafeteria and by the gyms. That's about all that's left in junior high, and we'll be in there next week. We will make September 3rd opening, no doubt in my mind.
I am very, very pleased. Any of the board members have questions?
I just wanted to say how awesome the building looked when we took the walkthrough. What a big difference, and the reconfiguration that's happened when you enter. I'm telling you, you're not going to recognize it when you walk in. What a difference from when we opened up those doors in 1979. It looks
Yeah.
great. I want to thank you and your staff, Mr. Strahan, your staff, all of you. Really, Nick, for your oversight, Dr. McCooley. I mean, it's taken all of you. So, and the administration and their work too.
Yeah.
I know it's been hard not being in your offices, but it looks great. It looks great.
Yeah, my staff has been going 5 days a week, 24 hours a day for the last 2 weeks. All day Saturday. We're accommodating whatever Brian and his contractors need. They're coming in early in the morning and staying later at night. Bruce has been there in the middle of the night, making sure the staff are working in the middle of the night, and I come in at 4 in the morning, whatever, 3 in the morning, whatever, to make sure they're working and try to get caught up on everything.
He just left us.
He was just saying.
What's that?
You just
Going back.
What's
It looks great.
Going back.
Yeah,
It looks
so,
great.
The one thing I think that maybe gets sometimes at least an oversight is the safety feature in
Right.
high school when you go in. And it will now be part of the junior high too, is that entrance is kind of separated, so you can't get through those doors.
Correct.
Until you are checked in.
checked in, that's correct.
That is amazing, but.
You'll be like
awesome
locked
job.
in to
Right.
into like a little
The other
area.
thing that I want to, again, the work that's been done, when I went to the construction meeting last week, literally, I walked out of there and I thought, there's no way. There is no way. And just the difference in a week. It's, certainly it's still a little bit of chaos going on, but the difference is amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
like
amazing.
Nick said, it was over 5,000 man hours,
Yeah.
their end, not our end, that's
Right.
just the contractors.
Right.
So there's been a lot of hours the last week that's been put in, last
Well,
couple of weeks.
Certainly all appreciated.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
No,
Guys have
ditto.
questions?
It was great.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to jump down to Ms. Frasca.
Good evening, Dr. McCooley, President Ernst, board members. I had the great opportunity of attending the Little Egg Harbor Municipal Utilities Authority meeting last Tuesday night, where they presented you with an award. As you can see, we had that awesome water tower painted, Cats Community, and they actually made a plaque and presented it. I went and received it on behalf of you. I'll read it to you. It says, Wildcat Pride, presented to Pinelands Regional School District. Thank you for your cooperation while we painted our water tower. August 13th, 2019. Michael DeFrancia, he was very influential in getting that accomplished. He is a Pinelands alumni. And Earl Sutton Jr. And this is from the Little Egg Harbor MUA. So hopefully we can hang this on our wall of our high school.
Thank you very much. All right, moving into item number 9, which is our work session. First on the list is merit goals. Did you want to present anything? I know they're listed
They're in
on
line with the
agenda.
district, yeah, they're in line with the district
District
goals,
goals.
and they're there's a link.
Okay,
Same thing.
all right.
We've seen them.
Anybody have questions at this time? District/board goals. Was that link put up?
Yes.
Mine's not.
The link is there, and the only thing that's been updated recently are the board goals. And I know Ms. Chambers went ahead and gave us a very detailed second goal. So there were some comments on those and additions. I did add them in there, so everything has been updated.
The only one and maybe I overlooked it, maybe it was put on later today. The only one I did notice, there was a suggestion regarding, let me see here, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, about representation, attending town meetings,
I had put that on
things
there a
like
couple
that. I
days
don't
ago.
know, I mean, it wasn't added, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that. I mean, there was a time where it was on past board goals. I'm thinking maybe 3 years ago. I know we attended some, but we tried to alternate so not the same people were going all the time. But I don't know, was Lucy who put that on you?
Yes, I did. Again, one of our commitments is for better communications you know, with district staff, with each other, and with our community. And I think one of the things I personally felt that one of the things that perhaps we needed to try again was to reach out to our town fathers, you know, whether it be Eagleswood, Tuckerton, whatever, and make some attempt to attend a meeting. For example, if Tuckerton was having a meeting, Kim as Tuckerton's representative would go along with the then president or vice president, certainly wouldn't have to be both, and Dr. McCooley if she's available, just to make a presentation regarding the district, what's going on in the district, the good things that are happening in the district, but to basically forge some kind of a bond with our actual townships. I know Little Egg had at one point not only the senior advisory committee, but they also had the community advisory.
Yeah, citizen advisory committee.
Citizen advisory committee, because Pat and I went to a few of those. Again, I don't know how the board feels about it, but it's like anything else. If it's something that you feel is worthwhile, and these people are busy, there are elected officials, they don't have a lot of time in their days either, but maybe it's up to us to make the effort. Again, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna be around. So it's gonna take
6
a
months
commitment
left.
though. It's gonna take a commitment from the board members if this is something you wanna add to our action plans, and see through.
I mean, I looked through the rest of the comments, in fact, I ran them all separately, and it looked like everything was added. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That was the only one I noted.
So I actually talked to Sue, you know, the mayor occasionally, and Ron Peterson from my town, but, I mean, I go to a lot of meetings now, but I could go like twice a year or quarterly or something.
Well, and I didn't
You
even
know,
think of
maybe
this, it's
once
not
in a
like I'm
while.
saying once a month, but I'm saying if,
Yeah, like
you know,
once
every
in a while.
quarter,
Yeah, once in a while.
you know, reach out,
I have to go.
make plans. You know, we can certainly add that as an action plan, but it's up to this board.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys, there's a lot more Little Egg people than,
Yeah,
you know, Eagleswood.
Little Egg can kind of be spread out because there's more of us. But again, you know, what we need to do is make sure we can approve the goals. The action
action
plans
steps
will
we can
become a
change.
fluid
Sure.
document.
Yeah.
We already basically, I think, achieved one earlier this evening, but
I wanted to ask about goal 2, no, it is goal 1, the discussion work session given by Sean Dalton. I didn't know where that came from. I didn't know.
I'm looking at Phil because Amy's little computer went off and mine went off.
It's the
I'm
one
sorry.
with the discussion work session given by Sean Dalton, Cooper Levinston, on
Yeah.
coordinating between district and local police departments.
Oh, that was also mine.
Like, why is that something they suggested? 'Cause like.
No, Sean Dalton was, I think, relatively new to Amy's firm during the convention in Atlantic City. Pat and I happened to go to his workshop, and it was about facilitating between local police departments and our SROs and somebody on our administrative team. For example, the premise is that if we know a kid is getting in trouble in the community, for whatever reason, you know, he's been being beaten at home or whatever the problem is, but it's a child that's being noticed. If there was some communication between local police and our district, we could perhaps intervene, you know, whether it be through school-based youth services, our own guidance department, or other programs we have in school. In the meantime, Melissa did send me a document called Little Egg Harbor Cares, okay, which is through the Little Egg Harbor Police Department. I have not had an opportunity to actually read that carefully. But again, it was something that I was thinking that as goal number 1, where we're looking at the emotional, social learning of a child, I think if we had a closer connection with what is actually going on in our communities.
So that's exactly what the CARES program does.
Right.
It informs us if there's any kind of trauma in the home or with the student, and we have an update and we can handle it on our end. But I think it's great to put it there as one of the action steps, because we can have someone come and present to the board exactly what the program is and discuss.
I think that would be awesome. of course, at that particular point in time, once the program actually begins, it would be on a very confidential basis.
Right.
I mean, obviously, they would be speaking to our SROs and our administrators as to, hey, we think this kid needs help.
Good. And
So-
again, it's just
Sounds
to discuss the possibility of having that work session.
Right.
It's not something that, you know, Brittany
I
brings.
don't
that we
mind
have
it,
to-
in the working.
Right, yeah, it was me.
So we're okay with the goals, and like you said, the action steps can be filled.
We can add as we go.
Yeah.
Are we good with the goals?
Yes.
Thanks for your input.
Okay.
Thank you.
New business?
New business, one of the things that we need to discuss is our budget parameters and our actual budget process.
I think Mr. Brown is going to jump.
Yes, so I'm gonna let Nick kind of,
Yep, so we have, I put together some information for you guys. Phil, bring that up now. So this is our revenue expense data. So this is a snapshot from the 2018 CAFR. This is a J schedule in the back. So I want to point out something very specific here. These are not audited financials. These are numbered, the audited financials are in the C schedules in the front of the audit. They summarize the data in these tables and J schedules in the back, so you can have long historical stretches of data. These are, I pulled from here because they're going to be mostly materially accurate, that if there's nuance transposed digit, it doesn't matter. And this gave us a nice clean summary. So Phil, if you could go to that next slide. We just take this data and chart it into, we're first looking at the revenue there in the upper left corner. I think the biggest takeaway from this, guys, is there's no growth. It's a very slow, methodical growth in revenues over the last 7 years. And then we look, and then the other three, Phil, if you could scroll up a little bit, are just 3 different expense buckets. And the point of doing this is we want to look at, before we prioritize how we spend our money next year in the budget process, how are we spending it now? You know, our expenses for instruction include things like, this is regular instruction, things like salaries for teachers, books, things like that. Special instruction, same thing. And then expense for support services, you can see what's in that category. And so if you could scroll up a little bit, I think the one takeaway here is the year-to-year change is relatively flat, right? And the 2 areas we see the most fluctuation in cost are our administrative expenses, which include our unallocated benefits. In that category of unallocated benefits is our health benefits. So if you look at that number on the table on the previous page, it's something like $10 million. We don't spend $10 million on health benefits. We spend somewhere around $6 million. But in that category, for this purpose, all of your employee reimbursement expenses like TPAF and I wrote something. The reimbursements for TPAF, health benefits, and on behalf expenses are all categorized in there. So it's going to say that category is $10 million for us. That's really about $6 million because the other costs get refunded. But we have a lot of change in the administrative costs. I think the biggest contributor to that is the annual increase in benefits. I think this one's going to show a little leveling to our advantage because we moved, the board moved everybody into the shift last year. We have really stable year-to-year costs for healthcare in the shift. So again, the point is to share this information, not to dissect it for you, but we want to make a couple of budget priorities that align with the board goals that we just discussed. So we talked about social emotional learning and math achievement in the classroom. Now, how do we review this data and from it create some budgetary goals that support it? So, Phil, if you don't mind going again to the next one on the department page, this is something we put together for the budget committee last year as we were going through, we pulled these reports from Systems 3000, so these are not audited financials. But, you know, we take, and go ahead to the charts, Phil, and you get, we're just taking this data and then charting it, so I see the 3-year average in green, I get an idea of where I'm at currently versus the 3-year. And the board expenses, salary and extra comp, that's always going to be 70+% of the school district's expenses. And you can see the health benefits is the next biggest chunk of it. And I split these into 2 categories, over 400 and under 400. The only reason being the graph doesn't really function because some of the values are small, so we had to break it down. So again, I'm not going to dive into this much. I really want this discussion to be for you guys, but I did write down a couple of suggestive budget priorities based on some of the discussions we had. One of the ones that came from my working group at the budget workshop where I was at was, and I thought it aligned with the social and emotional goal, was dedicate greater resources to our school-based youth services program. As we talked about the number of students that are impacted by that or that are served by that program on an annual basis, and how it faces annual budget constraints for us to support with general fund dollars, the grant that we get from the Department of Child and Family. You know, maybe I've one that, because we talked about it tonight, maybe it's we're committing to the upkeep and maintenance of all this new equipment. Something that came up with John and I today in reviewing with the guys from American Athletic who did the field is that tennis court, that track, if you take their 10-year life of maintenance costs, it's going to be about $225,000 over 10 years. So you need to allocate something like $20,000 a year, even though you might not spend it every year, to be able to maintain and keep those facilities in shape. Because what happens if you don't do it, in 15 years, you're ripping out the whole track and laying a new one down. So instead of $250,000, it's going to cost a few million. So I think there's a good sense in learning some of these costs. Air conditioning filters. We didn't have air conditioning before. John, what was that number on what we're going to spend on filters annually?
About 20 grand.
20 grand. That's a number. And look, we're going to achieve savings in our utilities too, right? That was the point of doing some of these things. So these aren't all new costs by themselves. But I think if we're getting into the planning phase, protecting our investment is one that I think makes a lot of sense. Mr. Kabricki mentioned reducing illegal expenses and evaluate that on a cost per pupil basis. We've talked at length about reducing out-of-district placements in the district. And if you look at, Phil, if you could go back to that first charts tab, and one of these tables we have tuition is one of the costs. Scroll down there. Right, that cost has gone down for us, right? But it's still a fairly substantial number. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can pick off. So I don't want to ramble on about this data. You guys have had a couple of days to look at it. Any questions for me?
Well, the facilities is a good pillar, because if we spend $20,000 keeping everything up, but then you do need a facilities plan that also makes sure it happens, right?
Well, so as a comparison, the debt service payment for the bond to redo the high school was $2.2 million on August 1st, right? So do you want to bond more debt to build it all over, or do you want to commit incremental money on an annual basis to upkeep it?
But at least it's something that we have to talk about.
100%, yeah.
I think we have a responsibility to make sure we maintain things.
Yeah.
I think that's a done deal.
This year and 20
And
next year.
I really think with the maintenance plan, and I know John did create one when he first came on board, maybe take a look at that to see where you need to allocate some of those monies.
And look, the goal here wasn't to throw this data up, have a 2-minute conversation, and walk out of here with 2 goals on the budget. The goal is to introduce the information, explain what the objective is here, and at one of the next couple of board meetings, we'll let that happen naturally through the discussion, set these budget priorities before the budget committee kicks into action. And they're going to kick in, I think we said November, right? We talked about. So, you know, there's a little time to dissect the information. If you have questions about the particular expense categories or some detail on them, you can shoot me an email and we'll do our best to give you as much detail on them as we can.
Did you expect this to come out quite this even?
Yeah, because they're big numbers, and I didn't really get into the, you know, when you're presenting data like this, and you know that there's not a lot of year-over change in revenue and expenses, because we only grow by the 2%. I'd have to change the minimum and maximum, on the min and max on my graph to just make these differences more disparate. Because the difference between 17 and 18, it looks like, you know, maybe $25, right? It's probably closer to, what category is that? Expense instruction in 17 was 8.3 million, and the next year was 9.3 million. So that's $1 million difference on the chart, and that's the point of providing the table. You can make the data dance in presentation, but it is fairly level. I'm not backtracking on that. We don't have a lot of revenue and expense growth on an annual basis, but I don't think the charts reflect. That doesn't look like $1 million spread, right? So I think that's why the chart is provided as a resource.
Thank you.
Yep.
I do think as part of the budget process, another important data point is how we compare with other similar districts. Right, so I know that the state has some comparison reports for some of the major categories similarly, and you can pull across the state, similar junior high and high school districts.
So they have the
spend on each of the different categories.
Yep,
And then
Taxpayer's
how we
Guide to
compare.
Educational Spending, which is something that Mr. Kabricki had shared recently when he was looking at the legal cost per pupil.
Right.
So that gets updated annually by the state. They do that analysis by district factor group, so you can see your comparison versus in the district factor group, or you could create your own local similar districts and do a comparison to
So I
them.
just think it's important as part of the budget process to look at that, so that if there are any categories where that we have a significant variance to some of our other similar districts, we need to understand why. You know, why does it look like it's costing us more in this category, or why does it look like our student, staff to student ratios seem off, right? Maybe the why is some things that we can correct, and maybe the why is, there's some very valid reasons for that.
Well, I think when we looked at that in some nuance earlier, you have, and I'll share that Taxpayer's Guide to Educational Spending. I'll put that in the board folder of where the CAFR and this presentation is, so you guys can dissect that a little bit. I think that, you know, you get a ranking that says you're 36 out of 56, right? But I'll use legal costs as an example, because this is one we talked about. Is this one where the incremental cost is put a couple of dollars, and if we were $3 per student cheaper, we would be on we'd be 19 out of 36? I think what happens when you group the 50 together, and a lot of times is the middle of it is very, very grouped together. And so you're in the instance where one legal matter flipped that from being 19 to being 36. And it's very difficult in that sense to be able to plan, but to your point, if we're being conscientious, we know those numbers exist, and then I think it helps from a budget priority. But I'll share the Taxpayer's Guide with everybody, put it in that folder.
Will the committee be meeting to discuss some of
I
this?
think that we wanted to set some
Yeah, you mentioned not to
goals as a
November.
board before, so the committee could do their job. Or
This was
have an
some
idea of where to
guidance for the
begin.
budget
Right.
committee to work with.
So I think what Nick is saying is he's given out some information, you have a lot to review in the folder, so between now and the September meeting, looking at all that and prioritizing and coming up with 2 goals based on that. So after those goals are set, then the committee can meet with the guidance of those goals.
And one of the things that you should be doing is setting dollar limits, maximum dollar limits for every professional service, not just legal, but all of your professional services, and that way you have
Right.
goals set.
And not
for those.
arbitrarily, based on some of the information that we have in that folder,
Right.
and, you know, taking into consideration that we have had the capital projects, and things are gonna look different moving forward, but just looking at all the information in that folder, and then by September, coming up with some board goals for the budget, and then the committee can get together and dissect it even further.
So do you want the board to send those suggestions or our thoughts to the committee chair or to Nick?
I would send them to Nick at this point, and then he can put together kind of a compilation spreadsheet that we can review and discuss next month and pick some board goals for the budget.
All right, and it's a folder that's, you just keep it, it's there, right?
When I shared this with
Yes.
everybody earlier this week,
Okay.
I shared it in a board of the whole folder
Gotcha.
on my Google
Okay.
Drive. That
All right.
I'll put the other documents in there.
All right.
We'll reshare it, Kim. We'll reshare it. All right?
I have a question for John. I know that as soon as you came on board, you had a maintenance plan. We also now have a long-range facilities plan, correct?
Yes.
Yes, all right, which, again, I think isn't very important because we never had one.
Yeah. No, that's, I'm gonna further develop that after the project's
Well,
done.
and I know that you had outlined it
Right.
as
I
far
outlined it,
as
but
what we were doing
Along with
long-term.
Brian noticed, as we've been going through the project, we noticed some things that need to get done afterwards and everything like that, so that'll be in that plan.
Okay, thank you, John, but we'll give you time because you're a little busy.
Thank you.
You're free enough next week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I heard he was free between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think you're free between.
Well, he's the early, I'm the early morning, he's the late night, so.
Yeah, I'm ready. Anything else under work session, board forum, et cetera here that you want to discuss at this point?
Can I just say, I was very impressed with all the stuff that was in this, and all the emails that Madge sent out, with all the information from the admin team.
Kim, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I was very impressed with all the information that Madge sent out today, from all the information that the admin team has been working on.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's a lot of work.
We're getting it done.
I know we're getting it done. All right, then moving on to residents forum, I would remind you that this is for agenda items only. I will also remind you that this is not a Q&A. If you have a question, if it can be answered once you've been seated, we'll try to answer it. If not, we'll certainly find a way to get back to you. Also, please be respectful of the audience and your time limits. Anybody want to talk on agenda items?
Good evening, Rick Miller at the St. Paper. Something really simple because it got a little confusing. I want to make sure to put it right in the paper. The new hours of the meeting would start in September?
Yes.
Is that correct? And it would be 5:30 for you guys in executive and then 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the roof to Nick. Can I say a name or no?
You can ask the question,
Okay.
and then when your questions are over.
My
we'll
question
let you-
is why are we doing the roof this week when this roof issue has been around since January of 2017? And why are we doing it 2 weeks before the kids go back to school, knowing that there's gonna be smells again? And also, are we Band-Aiding the roof by putting AlphaGuard over what's wrong with it now? And was it scanned?
I'm not a roofer, so I'm not gonna get into the weeds on the particulars of the roofing question. I think I answered those pretty thoroughly earlier. The entire roof was replaced. AlphaGuard is not a Band-Aid, it's the recommended, it's recommended from the material manufacturer to uphold the warranty.
Was the roof scanned?
The roof scanning is scheduled for, was scheduled today, it got postponed for rain, it's scheduled for tomorrow. And I said earlier, the coating of AlphaGuard will get postponed. If it can't go down tomorrow, we'll push it to November.
And what is the coating gonna do to the roof of
I don't
the
know,
issues
I'm not
that
a
are on
roofer,
that?
but I'll get you an answer to that.
Okay, because my other question is on the question and answers. I had sent 2 questions through, and nobody's brought it up, any of my questions.
Fire away.
I have the scanned picture proving that I did send it to you guys. The other question I have is, why was the school opened when it was said in a board meeting that they would not open the high school until the entire job was complete? They also, not only the board stated it.
Is the high school
but
open?
It was, yes. The 6th graders graduation.
The gym was open and we got a CO from the township for that.
But it was also in the referendum and by Mr. Garrison not to go into that school.
I don't
until it was
have record
complete.
of that, but we did get permission from the township and it was completely legitimate to open up the gym at that time.
Again, and this isn't just for you, Kelly, it's for everybody. Again, Kelly, can you kind of ask all your questions?
Sure.
And then we'll answer them
Okay.
once you've been seated, so we're
Okay.
not kind of going back and forth.
Okay.
You know.
The other question is, we were told in another BOE meeting that there would be a walkthrough for the parents before the students returned to the high school. When will that be?
Is that
Are these
the
all your
last-
questions?
Is that the
Oh,
last?
sorry. We were also told, and asked several times in many questions for the past 8-9 months about the roof, and we're not even given answers every single time. I have proof of it all, that it was asked by many.
Kelly, I'm not sure what your question is there. You're saying questions were asked about the roof, but they've not been.
About the issue with the roof, and the answer that I have gotten, that there was nothing wrong with the roof, even though we all knew there was.
Okay, so your question is there something wrong with the roof? And, or why hasn't this been?
Why were we told there was nothing wrong with the roof when there was?
Okay, all right, is that
Okay.
it?
Yeah.
I don't know, Nick, if you want to try to answer those, because I know you're going to say, I'm not a roofer.
The parent walkthrough is August 28th.
Mr. Ballone, can you answer them?
I'm not a roofer either, but I know it's been, you could ask Brian, everything's been done according to contract, according to Garrison's specification and Tremco's, period.
Okay.
No one's trying to hide anything.
Right. The roof is finished.
It's finished.
Okay. Our roofing company did the roof. They've completed the roof. As the roof was finished, correct me if I'm wrong, blueberries appeared in very small sections. That was not the roofers.
No.
That was the product which was supplied by Tremco.
Correct.
Okay. Tremco's what remedy is?
The AlphaGuard.
The AlphaGuard.
Right.
And weather permitting,
Weather permitting.
and the scan is complete.
No, the scan
No.
will be
Well, the
done.
scan will be done tomorrow, it was supposed to be
The
done
scan was
tonight,
supposed to be
right?
done, the scan was supposed to be done today, but with the rain, it was postponed.
All right. Kelly, I'm sure that the school has your email, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I am gonna have Nick talk to each of these people, and your unanswered questions, I think Melissa answered the question about, the gymnasium, we did get a CO. We were permitted to use the gym, we did not use the building. We had to go through hoops,
That was part of Garrison's plan, was to open the, Nick
Open
wasn't
the
here at
gym
the
by
time, open
January
the gym
1st
in
or
January
something
so
like
they
that,
can
yes.
use it.
so I will have Nick get those answers.
And then the walkthroughs, the parents can walk through with the students to orientation on the 28th from 9 to 12, they're scheduled, and Mr. Garrison will be there also, so if you have any questions for him at that time, he's gonna be there to answer them.
All right, anybody else from our audience? All right then, moving on to the meat of our agenda. Our committee reports, I need a motion for, under instruction, items A1 through 12.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Any discussion by the board on items 1 through 12? Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John.
All right, roll call, Mr. Barchetto.
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki.
Yes.
Ms. Palladino.
Yes.
Ms. Hamdell.
Yes.
Ms. Papakua.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under item B, personnel, items number, I need a motion to approve items 1. What's it called? 14, is it? No. 18, 19. Items number 1 through 19. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I got AJ on that one.
Okay. Got it.
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Karen?
I just want to confirm, I guess for everyone, that the new hires, my understanding is that there is no additional staff other than the new homebound instructor.
Correct.
So those positions.
Yes,
continue.
and that chart helped, Ms. Paraska helped us with that chart so you can
Yes, that will
understand.
help.
all the
And I
places.
thank Gina for that
She's over
because
there.
I really needed that because I really did not understand.
And there's
so.
been a lot this summer, there's been a lot of changes
A lot of
and a
changes.
lot of movement, so I think it did help, it helped all of us.
Which I congratulate you on changing everybody around to the positions that they wanted, that were going to improve them, you know, and within the school. I think that's great. Item 13, the ground stipend. Is that an additional foreman that we're doing outside? I'm sorry, you just.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
you are.
he just left, Karen, yes, he took the stipend from somewhere else, it was,
Okay.
it's not new money, it's a new stipend, but it's not new money, if that makes sense, he took
Okay,
it from
yes.
something else.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a thought, I wanted to confirm.
Any other questions? Karen, you have
And
another
then
one?
I have just one more.
Sure.
If you could maybe give some insight into, I see we're increasing our substitute pay rates.
Yes,
I do recognize that in the recent past, we have had troubles, I believe, getting some of them.
yes, we have, and what we did was, we had, Ms. Rosenberg did a comparative with other school districts, whether they be 7 to 12 or, you know, elementary, and we were very much under the rate, and we are having a hard time getting subs. So what happens to happen is, sometimes we'll have other teachers cover, and then we wind up paying them, and it costs us more money than getting a sub. We were using Swing for a while, which was a 25% markup, and unreliable, really difficult to get subs too. So we're hoping that raising the rate, we can get more sub coverage.
Okay. I guess the only thing that I would ask is that I think we'll need to keep an eye on this budget line item. We usually spend quite a bit on substitutes. Hopefully, with some of the staffing changes, maybe we'll need to have less reliance
Sure.
on subs, but we always need them.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we can give you periodic updates if
Yeah,
that's something
that'd
you
be
need
great.
to, that's fine.
That long-term sub is, that's much different.
That's a very difficult item to budget aggressively, knowing your historical costs are there, because if your historical costs are 250K, and you go, we want this to be 150, you're just gonna get stuck holding back 100K or somewhere near your 3-year average unless there's operational changes that support the
Right.
budget goal, right?
Unless there needs to be someone in the classroom with the students.
100%.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? We're going to do vote. Mr. Barchetto?
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino?
Yes.
Ms. Hamadel?
Yes.
Ms. Pakwakua?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item C, operations. Can I please have a motion to approve C1 through C15, is it? 16, no.
C1.
Operations is
Oh,
just
C1.
one.
Yep, A and B.
Okay, just C1, A and B. Motion?
Motion.
Questions? Mr. Barchetto?
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino?
Yes.
Ms. Hamadel?
Yes.
Ms. Pakwakua?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And last but not least, the report of the board secretary, business administrator. Remember that we tabled an item or made a change to the agenda. So I would like D1 through D18.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes. Just one. When I look at the board secretary report, and if this is too specific, if we need to follow up, I'm comfortable with that. But it says the revenue from the state sources is about $1 million less than we budgeted.
Yeah, so it happens every year in the June, and this is why this report is preliminary, or one of the reasons. So the state withholds our last state aid check every year.
Okay.
And we had some discussions about cash flow and
Yep.
that impact on us in previous times. So we don't get that $1 million until mid-July, and so it's not reflected on the preliminary June financials. But
So it's a timing issue.
Yes.
This is just preliminary.
yes,
Got it.
we are in line with our expected receipts and revenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Nick, on item 18, the yearbook contract, I know I was the one that posed I think there were a couple questions, but I questioned the length of the contract.
Yeah,
So
that-
we're going to do it yearly then, or, because I don't know if that has an impact on what the original contract says, because it's the 3.
Well, and the 3-year agreement, because it's not just the yearbooks, it's the rebranding initiative with the high school. And so for them Herb Jones is committing a substantial amount of resources to develop banners, printed materials and the like for the school to assist the district with rebranding, logo creation and stuff like that. So the 3-year contract is a way for them to spread that cost so that each of the years it's manageable and they can, take advantage of it. So I think the 3-year contract's advantageous. One of the things that I had, and I didn't have a chance to share this with the board, but I talked to one of our yearbook coordinators, and they were talking about all the fundraising efforts they do to support the yearbook so that the board's never, holding the bag on it. But they've done an exceptional job in years past, and Mr. Pinelands and a ton of the other events that we do throughout the year are fundraising events that benefit the yearbook committee. I'm comfortable with their management of the program and how well executed this plan was with Herb Jones, or coordinated, I should say, that I thought it was acceptable to go on the multi-year agreement.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know if it had to be reflected that way on the resolution, because it's just for 1 year.
Right, should it say that?
So what I do in Little Lake Harbor is I'll put, this is year 1 of a 3-year contract as a supplement. If the board likes to see that level of detail, it's helpful for us too, because when we go back, when I create the agenda every month, I look at the August agenda from last year to see what we approved, and it helps to see that, and then I don't have to look up the contract, I know it's year 2. So if you guys want, we'll include what year we are in the term in the description of the approval.
Okay, that's good.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Mr. Barchetto?
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino?
Yes.
Ms. Hamadel?
Yes, except on number 3, I'm going to abstain. And number 7, thank you for all the pianos. And the other, there are some great donations, so thank you for that. Yes, otherwise.
Ms. Pakwakua?
Yes.
Ms. Mrs. Chambers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to our last residents forum. Again, I remind the audience, be respectful in your comments, etc. So I would open it to the audience.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. My question is for Mr. Brown.
Can I have your name, please?
Oh, Jennifer O'Rourke. Hi. I just have a quick question. I know that you and I have been going back and forth with a couple of emails since back in June. Do you know why they did not start the roofing project in July like we had discussed and we thought that maybe they would do, the sooner the better?
Yeah, we tried to get it as quick as we could. I think the reality was there's other priorities in the project. The roof was completed to the point where there's no issues, no water coming in the building, things like that. These repairs they're not needed to make the roof work, function properly. And so we have priorities that are things that we need to do to get a TCO to open the building. And so I think what happened is the reality of the construction project, we were very communicative, and every time I talked to you, I went to a construction meeting and said, give me a deadline on AlphaGuard. And so it was a part of every construction meeting for several weeks. It was a matter of being able to make that a high enough priority. But I think it's important to know that none of these last two steps they don't really have anything to do with the completion of the work. The roof is done. The scan is something Tremco does to ensure that the warranty is good to go. They've already issued the warranty. And the AlphaGuard is a minimal application of the material to fix it. So that's why we thought the best idea was if we couldn't get it down tomorrow, which is a date that's moved around a little bit because of weather, we just bumped it till November so that we avoid any potential for an unpleasant odor. But to be clear, the AlphaGuard that's going down is not the same smelly stuff that was on the roof before. That was a hot mix material that was applied, that was where people complained about the smell. This is a cold mix application with very little harmful odors according to multiple people that have worked with it. So the reality is that it was a function of a $60 million project, and we've still done it in a way that's in the best public interest of health and safety.
Yeah, I think that the problem is most of the parents that are probably sitting here and worried, and that are not here that are worried and watching, it's that the last time that they said they were putting the application on the roof, it was
not the same application.
Right, I get it. What I'm saying is that at that time when they put it on, it was supposed to be safe for like a hospital. It was supposed to be perfect for the school, and then it wasn't. So now my concern, and I can only speak for myself, but now that this is so close to the school year starting again, how do we know that there isn't going to be a smell in the school? And I really worry about that because my sons were in the worst classrooms and exposed to a lot of things that other kids are, don't get exposed to anymore. So here we are again entering, and that's really a big concern to me. I don't really care about all the other things that we're discussing tonight, but that's a huge concern to me. Like,
what I would recommend is you come to the orientations next week.
Yeah, but that's just a walk, and that's just for a little bit of time. If the windows are open, the doors are open, how am I supposed to know that the smell isn't going to enter if there was? Right, and I get that, I know. You can't always smell something
Well, your
immediately.
nose is more sensitive than any testing equipment, all of us. I mean, that's one thing to remember. We're going to smell it before it reaches an unharmful level. So just because we smell
But
something.
you don't always smell it for it to be harmful.
True,
And
yeah,
you don't
very true.
always, you could get a headache, you could get something.
I don't want to go in the weeds here because I'm not an expert
Right,
on this.
who is our roofing company? I know that Tremco is but who's the actual roofing who's the roofer that we're using? Who is that? Because I don't know.
I'll have to give you the answer on that.
So shouldn't we know who the roofer is to like address these questions too? Because I think you've been answering all my questions to the best of your ability in every email, and I think you've been wonderful answering at right back. But I'm still in that circle. I'm not getting the answer that I really want. I want to talk to a roofer. I want to talk to the people that are doing that. Why can't they come to the meeting and let us address so we can not bother you with these emails?
Look, you're not bothering me. I think the best course of action is for you to come to the orientation where the architect's going to be, and you can ask him those questions. He's certainly qualified to answer them better than I am.
The architect, but he's going to say he's not the roofer.
He will, and the project managers will be there also. We can see if we can get someone there from the roofing company on the 28th.
I would like to talk to all the roofers that are gonna be working on the project, not just one company, because what happens, and you know, I know these things happen. I can't speak for that person, I can't speak for him. That was I don't wanna go in this circle, we're now out of time. We're at the end. This is why I started emailing back in June, because I don't wanna have to worry about this again. I hated that year. That was the worst thing ever. It stressed me out, and I'm sure it stressed other people out, you know. It's just bothersome, you know, that we're now back in the beginning of the year, which we really tried to avoid, and here we are again. We don't have the answers. And one other thing I just thought of, that original roofing product that went on the roof, we still, and we probably never will know what that roofing product was. Even though you sent me the information from whoever it was, we still, in one of those meetings, which were taped, there is something in there that we don't know the product that was put on that roof. We don't, and we're not going to know because nobody seems to get the answer. So we don't really know what's on that roof right now that's bubbling. I mean, we think we might know, but we don't really know. And so, okay, but you're not a roofer, so you don't really know.
I know the architect provides, and this is what I explained in the email, the architect provides bid specifications. The
Right, but
project
those
must be
weren't the
built this way.
ones.
The person who builds it provides shop drawings that confirms it was built the way the architect specified.
We're gonna have to respectfully disagree on this because we don't know it. And I know that from those emails, I mean, from those prior meetings, there just came a point where there was no answer. We don't know it. And we're just not going to know it. And that's okay if we just don't know. But we have to admit that we just don't know.
I think, first of all, we're going back to a time period. Things have changed.
Yes.
Since that time period. The
Agreed.
roof is finished.
And I'm happy about that.
Of course, and I think now the concern is, and all of our concerns is, the Alpha Guard, and I think what perhaps, because we didn't know the first time around, what is happening now is, you can bet your bottom dollar that when Alpha Guard goes on, TTI will be in here testing.
Right.
There will be a test done, all right, to assure that there are no
And are they
dangerous
also, okay, are they
stuff
also
in the
gonna
air.
test, and so they're testing everything they're doing for the VOCs,
Well,
they're
there
doing
have
for
been,
the,
exactly, where they have found, for example, we said we had a pipe break, where there's been found mold, as soon as it's cleaned up, TTI's been called in.
All right.
And they're testing in an area is cleared. So
Do
the
you-
only thing at this point in time is, I can't go back to what we
I
do or
know.
what we do not know.
right.
All we can do at this point is move forward. I've been told, just like you've been told, SDS sheets are there, et cetera, but testing is being done.
Okay.
There were tests on the structural steel, but
Mhm.
it would be delayed because the steel had to be tested.
Right,
I mean, we've got tests upon tests upon
I know,
tests.
I know. Good.
And where recently, just because of the humidity, where they suspect mold, there's a test done immediately. So, I would urge you please to come
Okay,
to that walk around. Mr. Garrison will be here. Brian Moore, who is overseeing everybody,
okay.
will be here. The roofers are gone. You know, they finished their job.
So we won't be able to ever ask the roofers then
Roofers
anything?
are out of here.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's now down to
But-
Trepco putting the Alpha Guard on. And again, it either gets done far enough before the kids come in, or it gets postponed until November, or we have that week off. It's one or the other.
So when we did the roofing the last time, and that was in there, there was that heating issue because it wasn't cured, because it wasn't warm enough
There
to.
were off odors because it was a hot tar. And
Right,
again,
so
Jen,
is
I don't
that
want to go there
different?
because I'm not a roofer and I don't know.
Right, so
And I don't
that's the
want to say
thing.
things I
So we
shouldn't
need
say.
to know, as
Right.
parents and sending our kids
Well, there
in
was an
there.
odor. I mean, nobody's gonna.
I know.
Nobody's
What I'm
denying
saying
that.
for the I know.
Whether it was harmful, whether kids got headaches, okay, yeah. I get a headache when I walk in Macy's cologne department.
We can't go there. We definitely can't go there about the headaches, because you
Right.
know as well as I know that headaches
Okay.
are one thing,
Right.
and other things could come from some of
Right.
those
Right.
things as well. That's
Okay.
just one symptom. That doesn't mean that, you know, it could go at,
Right.
somebody could have something, somebody may not.
Right,
Doesn't really matter.
right. Okay, thank you, Jen.
All right. Thank you.
It's all right.
Rick Miller of the Sandpaper. First question, Nick, you said that we saved or avoided paying about $280,000 to the roofing company. Do we know how much we spent on legal fees, mediation and stuff during that whole process?
No.
If you could find out by next meeting, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Second thing, as far as the change in the start of the meeting, the board discussed it, came to an agreement, but I don't know if we had any opinion from the public. I'd be worried that the earlier start would prevent, it's not funny, Nick. I'm worried that it might prevent some people from making the meeting.
So we did say that if there is an issue, once we started, if we're getting feedback from the public that they can't make the meetings, that we could adjust accordingly. And we also did say that we're going to do the board portion in the beginning and then all the presentations a little bit later so the students can get there.
The board portion is sort of the interesting part to hear what might be coming on in the future. So I was just going to suggest that maybe you could do some sort of survey online before you implemented the policy. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I'm gonna have to take over because where Jen was talking. The roof again, yes, this is real bothersome to a lot of us parents that have been through the whole entire scenario. I don't want my kid, students, staff, and everybody to be sick again like that. We both know that once we get another 90-degree day and that roof heats up, it's gonna put a smell back into that school
We
again.
don't know that.
We do know that because we were there the day when it happened, when we did the walkthrough. When we did the walkthrough, there's parents in this room that were there and actually reported it to Mrs. Stevenson. And we told them about the smell. And Mr. Nugent came in and he fixed it by only moving the vent around so the smell wouldn't come into the school. The bubbling on the roof was when the sun heated it up when it was 90 degrees and you put sprinklers up there to keep it cool. What are you gonna do when you have another 90-degree day and the kids are back and you're telling me that you're not gonna put the alpha guard on until November and we're gonna have heated days still? Our kids are gonna be sick again. What are you gonna do then? Because the plan should have been fixing it back in 2017 when the issue arised at that point. It shouldn't be a year later. And it's concerning that you let this go this long. We just put all this money into this school. How do we know how you're gonna keep up with it? And we're not gonna have the same issues over in 10, 15 years from now. I mean, it's a real problem.
Is that a question for me?
I think it was a comment.
Are you done?
I asked, you have attitude.
Holy God.
I have no comment.
That's the truth.
Anybody else in the audience? No? All right, I'm going to move on to board forum. And I'll start on this side. You're welcome. Karen.
Yeah. I have to say, when I walked through the high school, I was really surprised at how much was done, how much progress there's been made, and I just want to thank everyone, but most importantly, I'm just excited for it to be open. I'm excited for our staff to be in there, and I'm excited for the students to get back. So I'm looking forward to a really great year, and I also want to say, I don't know if it was noticed, but on the agenda tonight, another very positive thing about the school year is we're bringing back Highlands experience. So again, I think that's going to be another big thing for the students.
Thank you, Karen. Stephen.
Yeah, on a similar note, I went through the walk through at the high school today. And the problems that people are bringing up today about the roof certainly were problems that occurred over a year ago. And this board has taken very serious and conscientious steps to solve all those problems. Closing that school for a year was not easy, but it was something that the board did to ensure the safety. Over the last year, the people working at that school have primary purpose to keep that school safe. Until I walked through it, I had no idea in terms of how much stuff had gone into that project. Until you walk through it on the 28th when you go, you'll say to myself, oh my goodness, how did they do all this stuff in this short period of time? I know people have genuine fears, and everybody on here takes those fears and concerns appropriately. But from what I've seen in the walkthrough and what I've seen from all the reports and all the testing, I think the public can feel, if they go through the walkthrough, that they're correspondingly, the board is addressing the issues, the board is looking at the things, and it's a wonderful year that we've gone through in terms of making that school up and running. So I just wanted to try and tell the people out there that I don't think they have anything to fear in terms of the opening of the school, and that the board is on top of it, that the architects, that the people we have are on top of it, and I was totally impressed with what I saw when I was over there.
Thank you, Stephen. Christine?
I'm just really excited for my kids to get back to school. It's been a very long
Should we ask the reasons?
No, they're great kids. No, just thank you to everyone who's actually put time into building that to where it is.
Pat?
Thank you for your comments. Very well said. Thank you very much. So I really don't have anything more to add. I think I said it when they did their presentation. Thank everybody for coming tonight, and we're looking forward to a great opening. We're very excited. Have a good evening.
Kim?
Thanks for coming, everybody. I've said it all along as well.
AJ?
Best of luck to all the staff and students this year. Very exciting.
Congratulations, Alex. I have to say that because Alex went to school with my older granddaughter, and then they went to college together. I think they were in Disney for a while together.
She followed me.
Oh, yeah. So, congratulations, Alex, and welcome to Pinelands. I too am just tremendously excited about the opening of Pinelands. It's almost like starting a second love affair, if you will. It's the school looks incredible. I have to be very honest. We can't keep going to the past, and I think that's what Stephen was trying to say. Is there were mistakes made, and maybe the first people who had oversight, maybe they didn't do the job that we thought they were going to do or that we thought they were doing. But we cannot continue to go to the past. We have got to, and listen, you're not the only people who have issues. I've got issues. Somebody tells me something, and because of things in the past, I say, well, why should I believe this? I've been told so many things, and they weren't right, and I can't trust. I've got to trust. All right, that's what we've all been sitting here doing. That's why I go to these ridiculous, they're not ridiculous, construction meetings every week. And I sit there and half of what they're saying, I'm going, okay, and I have to look at John Malone and say, what's a bollard? Because I don't know. So we have to get to the point that we put something behind us. And you've got to know that while you people have been through it, we have been through it too. And we are trying to learn from our mistakes. Our bills for TTI, I'm sure, are very high. Because you're right, we don't want anybody around if there is an issue. And so TTI is testing and testing and testing. It's like the structural steel, and it's tested and tested and tested. We have taken every precaution. Bottom line is, we're human beings, and so are all these contractors. Do mistakes happen? Yeah, they do. But we are trying to do everything we can to prevent them. And we are trying to give this as much oversight as possible. So, I am probably one of the most jaded, cynical people that I know. And, well, no, next to Stephen, you're probably right. But the bottom line is, hey, you know what? If I can put it aside and I can trust, so can you. We're here trying to do the best job we can possibly do. And I truly believe that. So, thank you. That's it. Yes.
One comment, Nick, because of the concerns that were raised, I know TTI will be in the testing. Those test results will be made available publicly?
As they occur. Yeah.
that you have with the others, just so that people are aware they can go and look for them.
Okay, anybody have anything else to add? I would ask a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Who's my second?
Me.
Oh, you were first. 8:53.